Right, hello everybody. Welcome to today's session. So this is Adrian speaking. Hopefully you can all hear me okay.
If you
Right,
can hear
hello
me, please
everybody.
do let me know.
Welcome to today's session. So this is Adrian speaking. I was listening to me on YouTube at the same time. That's not particularly clever. So, right, guys, hope all is well. Please let me know the sound's coming through. We're casting on GoToWebinar. We're also casting on YouTube and Facebook as well. At least we're supposed to be. It's a little bit new to me, so I'm trying to conquer the social media world, but hopefully we're all nice and operational. Good, fantastic. All right, well, look, let's crack on with it. So what I'm going to be doing today is taking you through today's top trades. So the purpose of today's sessions, these new workshops we're doing every Tuesday lunchtime, is really to give everybody, whether you're a member of Trendsignal, whether you're not a member of Trendsignal, just to give you a bit of a flavor of what's going on across the different programs that we provide here. So Trendsignal Live, we're calling it, just gives you a flavor of the opportunity to setting up right now, setting up for today, so for tonight on our swing trading program. So Trendsignal Plus, which is Forex indices and commodities, Momentum Stocks, which is US stocks, and the Complete Crypto Trader, which is cryptos, as you might expect. So pretty straightforward. Now, just a quick risk warning. I'm not going to read this whole thing through, but spread bets and CFDs are complex instruments and come with a high risk of losing money rapidly due to leverage. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets and CFDs work and whether you can afford to take the risk. High risk of losing your money. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future results. One thing I do want to say is Trendsignal is not an investment educator. So it is an investment education provider and is not an advisory broker. So what we're going to be talking about today is not investment advice. This is education to help you to use the tools and the strategies and systems that we provide here at Trendsignal. Okay, and any trades that you may take out of from what you hear today is very much on your own basis. All right, so let's get on with it. What I'm going to be talking about straight off, why don't you let me know in the chat box, guys, what are you interested in? Is it FX? Is it indices, commodities, stocks, or cryptos? You can tell me in the questions box there what you're most interested in, and then perhaps we'll start with that. I actually don't mind. You can type all if you're not bothered, really. If you just want some opportunities, you just want to see what's going on, just type all in there as well. Personally, I don't really mind. I kind of trade anything really that's moving that I like the look of. But let me know in there and then we can get into it. So FX, commodities, says Patrick. James interested in FX. All, says Nick. Okay, well let's start with FX then. That seems to be the popular vote. So what we're looking at here is the Trendsignal Plus system. It is looking, I've already run the scan actually, looking at the opportunities that are setting up for tonight. So the way we work is we've got a list of FX, indices and commodities on the Trendsignal Plus program that we review. And we've got 2 or 3 strategies that we're looking at as well. Now I'm going to fix on the D1 sniper strategy. I'm just going to look at one strategy today because there's plenty to go through in today's one. So we've got, these are the markets setting up in the scan. So if I just bring my pen in here, we can see that we've got like Euro Swiss, Euro Sterling, Euro New Zealand, and so on. These on a 1 bar look back mean that they're looking at opportunities for tonight. So a 2 bar look back means that they were yesterday. So I've actually got New Zealand CAD here because I was having a quick look at it earlier. So that was a 2, which means it was set up yesterday. So there's today's bar. Okay, that's yesterday's bar. So this is a new opportunity as of yesterday. Okay. What we're going to focus on today is mostly the ones. We will have a quick look at the 2s, but mostly the ones because these are the ones. The purpose of this is to show you, everybody, even if you're not a member, what's happening, what we're looking at, the life, 20 minutes in the life of a Trendsignal member, basically, and what the opportunities look like, what we do with them, and so on. All right, so let's get straight into the foreign exchange side of it, and then we'll have a look at some of the markets we looked at last week. Now, I did post an update video onto YouTube yesterday, which did a little update, 3 or 4 minutes on what the markets we called last week. But let's have a look through them right from the top. We'll start on Euro Swiss. It's actually rotating really well, and Euro Swiss is one of the slower moving currency pairs that we really have. But as we zoom in a little bit, you can see on the far right hand side we've got an opportunity setting up for tonight. Now, why is this, and what type of opportunity is this? First of all, let's have a quick indication of context. So one of the things we're looking at here is whenever these lines change color, like here, there is a turning point in place. So the change in color from there to there to there to there to there and so on is a turning point, change in direction. Now it comes down to context. So is that a turning point we want to make? Now the algorithm takes care of certain things for us. So it'll analyze consistently performing patterns repeating themselves. So when the right types of patterns that have consistently produced great opportunities repeat, then you will see a disk, one of these disks will come up on the chart. Now, does that mean if there's no disk, there's not an opportunity? No, not necessarily. It's just certainly not what our new members would be jumping onto. So for example, here, there is no sniper. So what we would look for if we wanted to take that as a trade, some additional context. Is it bouncing off support? Is it whatever else it may be? Okay. So, but we're going to focus mostly on snipers today, simply because there's quite a lot of them that we can look at. But, we can look at other things as well. So what we've got here is a buying opportunity for euro against the Swiss franc. What do I think about it? I quite like it. Really, I like it, even though the market is in a downtrend. So we're looking at the weekly and the monthly arrows. So this is telling us that we are in a downtrend on the weeklies and monthlies. What we are starting to see on Euro Swiss is the market starting to move back the other way. And let me explain what I mean by that. When you're looking at a market in a downtrend, you're usually looking at this. The moves up are smaller than the moves down, right? So, typically you're seeing lower highs, lower lows, that kind of a pattern taking shape. However, at some point that trend, that downtrend, is going to stop, you would expect. And what's that stopping going to look like? Well, at some point, it's not going to keep putting on lower lows, is it? It's going to, at some point, it's got to start putting on higher lows. So in order for it to do this, and then start going back on an uptrend, and these markets will rotate, we start to need to see a low, a higher low, and we need to see a high and a higher high. Okay, so we need to start to see this market rotating back the other way. What we're seeing here is the start of that taking shape. So whilst we are aggressively against a lot of trends taking place here, so we're against the intermediate trend, we're against the weekly, the monthly trend, and so on, what we are starting to see is this pattern starting to emerge. And in order for a new trend to start, we need to start to see a trend reversal, and that's what we're seeing. So a very positive chart pattern starting to take shape. I really like these opportunities. In my experience, they tend to produce really good trades. I'm not, when we're going against the trend, the first trade is often harder to take. The second trade, against the trend, we're still against the trend at this point, it's starting to build. It's starting to build an element of understanding about the way in which this market's moving. It's starting to show signs of a trend reversal, and therefore I like it as a trading opportunity. And the trend reversal opportunities have these pink snipers on. Now, how are we going to look to manage those trades and that trade? Well, we'll use TradeMate, and we'll be looking at this every week. So this is a tool. We actually called this trade last Tuesday. I don't know if anyone attend last Tuesday's session, and did anyone take this Euro Swiss trade? If you did, let me know. It was a nice trade. We picked up about 40 pips on it, I think, something like that. After all the trades that we do, you kind of gets a bit confused in the mists of time. But click here to select entry candlestick. We'll have a look at what the system is suggesting. So calculate trade details, take profit of 102.41. That's from an entry down at 102.81. That's a 40 pip profit on that opportunity there. So James took a nice 30 pips there. Well done, James. That's nice to see. As for this potential buy trade, what we have here in this TradeMate tool is the way of basically getting what are statistically relevant levels. So looking at all the opportunities, looking at the way in which Euro Swiss moves, the most likely scenario is what we call our starter limits. And this is what we start our new traders off on using this system. So calculate trade details will give us an objective of 103.73. Now that level is going to change slightly based on the fact that the closing price is going to be a little bit different as we come to the end of today. So this is not a new opportunity for right now. This is an opportunity for this evening. Okay, so it might look a little bit different as we come to this evening. In fact, it might not even be a trading opportunity. We'll have to see if the prices come wanging back down as the day progresses. But at this point, if it closes like this, it's looking like a nice new opportunity with a take profit around that sort of 103.73 sort of area. It's about sort of there. Now, you can refine that based on support and resistance, and you can look at that and say, well, actually, I rather like it up to here and so on, and that's fine. The algorithm will take you based on a measure of what the market has done in the past, the typical types of moves it produces given the signal that it's created, and it will look at what the most likely scenario is. It's not looking at things like support and resistance, which need that element of human analysis. The point being is you don't have to look at all that, because the probability is based on what's in here. However, if you want to add that extra flavor of analysis using the system, you can do, and we're going to go through a little bit about that as we go through. But ultimately, for me, setting up this opportunity at this point, it's a nice strong entry candlestick, and so on. So actually, for me, I'm going to select our aggressive stop, nice tight stop where that line is there. So I'm going to go for an aggressive stop, and I'm going to look for the D1 sniper strategy, a starter limit. That's looking at a stop loss of 102.48. That will remain, that will be fixed. And then the target is going to tweak slightly based on where we finish tonight. But at this point, looking at 103.76. And we'll see where we go with it, guys. We'll have an update on it later on this week. Certainly, when we look at the opportunity from last week, that was a really nice trade, and we called that in last Tuesday's session. So let's move on. Euro sterling. We've got a market here which, we discussed this last week, actually. It was bouncing and rejecting. We talked about it last Tuesday, didn't we, as well? Rejecting off that resistance level there. It was going down, moving down towards that support level. It was a really nice trade. No sniper on the sell there from last week, but I liked it because it was rejecting that resistance level. I don't know if anyone managed to jump on that one as well. What do I think about the buy here? I think statistically it's fine. My criticism of all the sniper opportunities setting up today, this is my least favorite. And the reason for that is, and let me just compress the chart up a little bit. If we're talking about refining our opportunities and maybe looking to reduce our risk, the market found resistance here back in early February. We found resistance here back in mid-March, and we're right on that level. So effectively, the danger here is that we're going to be buying euro sterling pretty much right on resistance. So what's the market most likely to do is to get up to about here and then struggle to get through it. For me, that means effectively we've already done all the move over the last 2 bars, the most likely scenario for the move, and that makes it less compelling for me. Yeah, sure, if it breaks through here, it's probably going to accelerate on quite hard, but there are other opportunities that I can look at that I prefer, that I would rather avoid this one, okay? Because we're right on those resistance. Look at those red lines there. And there's a cluster of them starting to build and building resistance off that level. Okay, everyone, let me know, is this all making sense so far? Are you with me? Let me know in the questions box that I'm not, hopefully I'm not boring you all to tears so far, and it's all making good sense. Yeah, we happy? Henry's happy, Ashwin's happy. That's good. Edward, all good. Thanks, Sarita. Good, fantastic. Okay. So that's Euro Sterling. Not such a fan of that one. Euro New Zealand. Now, what type of opportunity? I like this. Quite a lot of strength in euro at the moment, isn't there? We're seeing today. What do I like about this one? Well, there's the buying opportunity that's setting up for tonight. There's a number of things here. Number one is we're seeing that the monthly trend is positive and the market is oversold. So this is what we used to call a swing trade with the trend. Okay, so it's a swing trade. The market is rotating off a low, but it's still with that longer term trend. So the bias for this market is still up because the monthly trend is still showing a positive bias, and this is an oversold market. So what this means, it's a deep pullback in what is otherwise the market that is looking to then rotate back up again. So what it's effectively doing is giving us value on what is a longer term uptrend. I like it for that reason in itself, but actually what I like even more goes back to what we talked about Euro Swiss earlier, that the market's had a low, we're starting to build in a higher low, okay? So you're starting to build this picture back in that this market, yeah, it's had a big heavy pullback, but actually, in order for it to go back up, it's higher low. Ooh, that could mean that we're going to start to move into a higher high. We'll see over the next few days, but I kind of like it. Ultimate resistance, would be up to this 164.42 level, that pivot point from there. But equally, I'm quite happy to have a look at it from TradeMate too, because a lot of these trades can be quite short-lived. So I'm not always looking for big targets. I'll go for probably on this basis, we'll have a look at the aggressive stop again. Quite nice, strong candlestick, although it might look a little bit different come the close later. So we'll have another look at this around sort of 9:30 tonight. So what I tend to do personally is I put the kids to bed. I've got quite young kids, right? So I put the kids to bed, then I'll have a look through my charts and look to place those opportunities on in the evening. So at this stage, the aggressive stop looks a good distance away. And then also you can go with the starter limit. Let's calculate trade details, looking for that take profit around that 160.79. It's quite a tight target there. You probably have a bit of room for a little bit more to the upside if you wanted to. But anyway, we'll see. We'll certainly be looking to review off the starter limits. What I like to do in these sessions is focus more on what's on TradeMate, because that's what kind of everybody can look at, right? So anyone that's on our system can look at this. The problem when you start adding a little discretion and adding more flavor to it and adding more understanding and experience to it is that's harder for everyone to replicate because everyone's experience levels are different, right? So what I like to do is just focus on what's here, and that's the number we'll be looking at as we go through. Okay. What's your most commonly used stop, please? It varies, actually, to tell you the truth. I would say, do you know what? I'd say it's relatively even across them. What I will do for the stop loss, because we have a couple of different stop losses, I'll look at the quality of the entry candlestick as to how far I want my stop loss to be, and then I'll gauge it on that basis. Okay, so for example, entry there, James, for me, that's a decent enough distance away. For that one there, I think that's a little bit tight. For me, I'd actually look at the semi-aggressive there. It's just a few extra pips and just gives me a little bit of extra peace of mind. So what I want to be is confident when I look at a stop loss. You have to think about a stop. I'm not convinced that everyone thinks about a stop loss in the right way. Is that a stop loss, you need to consider your stop loss price at a level where you think that the chance of that trade now being successful is pretty much gone. Okay, so at what price do you think that the chance of this trade going on to be further loss making is greater than recovering and going on to being a profit? That's where your stop loss effectively needs to be. So it's that boundary between, God, I don't want to be in this anymore, or I still think this one could come good, without that sort of blind hope of, oh, please go up. It's that statistically relevant level. And I think for me, got to give it a bit of room. And often it's not about I'll always go for this particular stop. I will, for a new trader, the semi-aggressive one's fine to get going with, or the passive one. But once you start to understand, it becomes a little bit more obvious as you look through the charts. Okay, a good strong entry bar means a nice tighter stop because the market's already got that big oomph behind it. If you're entering on a weaker entry bar, then typically you want to give it a little bit more room, because when it's a weaker entry bar, so it's not as full a candlestick, so it's a little bit more like that. So let's say you're buying on an entry candlestick bar like this, the market's already starting to come back the other way. You wanted to give a bit more room because at that point it seems like there's more conflict between buyers and sellers, so that's why the candlesticks aren't quite so clear. Over these two candlesticks, there is very little conflict between buyers and sellers at this point. The buyers are in control, and therefore you can allow the stop loss to be a bit tighter to give it a bit more, the ability to drive higher. You don't have to put that stop so wide. But if you're entering on a weaker candlestick, in my experience, we have to give it a little bit more room because that conflict between buyers and sellers, that volatility is still there, and the winner of that tug of war isn't really that evident at this point. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so Euro New Zealand, that's fine. Euro dollar. These are big, strong bars, aren't they? And actually, I look at this as a new trade here. from a few days ago. So this was last Wednesday, I think it was 23rd of March. That was Wednesday, wasn't it? Right. So here, target down to 109.61. Really nice sell trade. And this is the thing that actually what this system is doing is trying to identify the most statistically relevant levels. Yes, you can refine things with an additional analysis time, but you don't necessarily have to. If you want to, you can, and you can get better profits that way. Whereas you can just go off pure data and probabilities and so on. And that's what these starter limits are there to do. And it worked to treat on this opportunity. But again, what you're seeing is like Euro Swiss here. The pink sniper, the trend reversal kicking in. You're seeing a downtrend on the weekly, downtrend on the monthly, but you're starting to see this market trying to ratchet back up again. So I like this as an opportunity. A nice, decent trade there. For me, we can use the trade mate as an objective, but otherwise, I think this sort of area around that sort of 111.25 or so is looking good. A couple of resistance or support level here, a little chop that took place here around that sort of level. But actually, the longer I look at this, the bigger that entry bar is. But I still like it. I think this market is going to should easily go up to around that sort of 111.25, 111.50 level there. But like I said, we'll see. Dollar Swiss, this is an interesting move as well. I look at this one as one we reviewed it last week in the session, and what I liked about Dollar Swiss, I think, was the resistance level from back here. So there was no sniper, but we're hitting that resistance level back from April 21, and there was another one back from, I can't even remember when it was now, at some point. There it is. Yeah, so back in July 2020, the market returning to those levels, hitting that high, and then coming back off it. So if I just zoom in again, you can see the rejection off that 99.25 level or so. So now what's happened is the market then came off and gave us a possible sell. No sniper, but given the context, we called that as an opportunity in last Tuesday's live session. I don't know if anybody took it, but it ended up being a really nice trade. I think the turn was on the 21st. We looked at it on the 22nd, but it was still in good shape at this point. Did anyone take it? Let me know in the questions box. Ended up being a good one, coming down to that sort of level of support down here. The market's now bounced off that, and what we're starting to see again is some of these markets start to change their trend direction. So whilst the monthly trend is still negative at this point, we're seeing a weekly trend that's positive. This intermediate trend is positive. We're seeing higher highs, we're seeing higher lows. This market is starting to build into a more positive uptrend, so I quite like it. My only concern with it at this point is that it's finding resistance off those pivot points from there, that 93.40 level, a couple of those red lines. We're struggling to break through it once, twice, 3, 4, 5, and a sixth time we're struggling to go above 93.40. For me, I really like this trade. However, I'm going to be a lot more interested in it if we can have a good, strong close. So I would rather look to buy it at higher prices, perhaps around that sort of 93.50 plus, 93.60 plus level, because otherwise all we're doing is buying into what is deemed to be a bit of a ceiling at this point. And you can see that, can't we? So if we look at it, how many times has the market tried to get above this level? This is where prices are right now. And you're just seeing wicks there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's from a pivot point from a previous level of resistance last seen a few months ago. We're hitting that level, we're struggling to break through it. If we can stay above it tonight, we can close up here somewhere. I'm going to be a lot more committed to this buy and much more keen to take it, because the context is such that it's like, well, yeah, we have broken through resistance, and if we're going to break through resistance, then we should see some nice free air up to that 94.25 level. As for the target, if we do get to that, target's going to change based on the close, right? But in terms of that, you're looking at a take profit around that sort of 93.83 level initially, but I think it's going to be a bit higher. We're going to be up to around that sort of 94.10. Okay, but we'll have a look at that again a bit later on, or at least those with the system will do. But I'm interested in it, that's for sure. Okay, gold is another one. What's interesting about gold, and we discussed this last week as well, that sort of potentially setting up. It was a nice buy trade there, and that's rotated into a sell trade. Effectively, what we've got here is the exact opposite of what we're seeing on Euro Swiss. So with Euro Swiss, we were seeing this, and then the market rotating back up. But with gold, we're seeing more like this, and that's where we are now. It's funny how it looks different when it's a sell trade to a buy trade. And sometimes, in a way, it's almost, you'd probably be keener to take it if it was a buy trade than a sell trade, because we tend to have that not cognitive, that's probably the wrong word, a bias towards buy trades. But I quite like this as a selling opportunity as well. So there's quite a few setting up here for later. It's a decent opportunity. And again, new trade. Click on gold here. For me, you can go with the aggressive stop again in that 1939 level. Target wise, take profit wise, it's going to be relatively tight, so only about 80 points on the target, because that's effectively the way the gold typically works. If you're looking for a bigger, a more sort of ultimate sort of target, then really we could be looking down to this level here, that sort of 1863, 1864 level there. So if you can break that level of support, the next level of resistance, which could now become support, is down to this level here, from where we last moved out back from November 21. Okay, so keep an eye out for that one. So in summary, quite a few interesting trades, quite a lot of correlation there, obviously, quite euro heavy, but some interesting trades nonetheless. Just very quickly on the FX side, a couple of opportunities that are looking interesting at this stage. The likes of the DAX. That was a buy yesterday. What have I done there? Hang on. Buy last night, looking for a target of 14790. That market's now hit the objective from last night. Hopefully, some of you members got on that one. New Zealand CAD, pretty flat on it at the moment, but certainly the DAX, good pips around on those indices at the moment. There's some good volatility in there. Nice move for what, couple hundred points or so. Okay, well, that's the FX side. Any questions, let me know in that questions box. Let's have a look at some stocks next. For me, stocks are becoming massively underrated. I don't really know why. I actually find that some of our best opportunities can often be on stocks. And I'm just going to bring in my US stocks feed, and I'm going to have a look at the momentum stocks strategy now. In terms of March, fantastic month in March for trading opportunities. We look at and track the performance of the sniper strategy on the Dow 30 stocks. Today, I'm going to be looking at a couple of stocks outside of the Dow 30, just to give a decent flavor and a few more opportunities. But, over just the Dow 30 stocks, if you are looking at just those stocks and taking any trade with one of these discs on the chart for March, sorry, we're not even in April yet, for March, if you'd have just taken 5% targets on those and running the rest of them according to what we call the active stop strategy or the stop loss, we're currently up, I think, 46% cumulative. God, I can't even write, 46% cumulative profit. So that's 5% plus 3% plus 5%, whatever it may be, on those opportunities so far. We've got a few trades open at the moment, but some really nice trades there. Last week, we looked at Raytheon Tech, which was RTX. Liked this one. Obviously, the US stock market is closed right now because we're just before 1 o'clock. It doesn't open until 2:30 UK time. But there was the buy. Classic uptrending market. Really nice move. It's gone up 3%. It has hit our first target on this stock. It's just holding steady from there. But it's a nice trade. Really, typically with stocks, we're looking for sort of 3 to 5%. On stocks, but the market returning to that level of resistance from there. So a nice move there on RTX, approximately up 3%. In terms of the new scans, let's have a look at the scans across the S&P 100, hit search, and these are the opportunities over the last couple of days. Now, what we have there is, obviously, one is last night because the market's not yet open, and then J&J, because this is Tuesday, would have been from Friday, okay? So let's have a look at J&J, that's Johnson & Johnson. There was the opportunity there for the buy. Seems like we're buying it quite high up, don't we? But you know what? That's not usually a problem. There's an opportunity like that for a reason. Whilst we are, weirdly enough, still in a monthly downtrend, positive trend on the weekly, positive intermediate trend, higher highs, higher lows. There's a lot of good stuff that's going on here. The momentum is still positive at this point, showing the green line underneath, and we've seen prices returning up as well. So a nice buy trade. What do I think about Johnson & Johnson in terms of objectives? How would I be managing this trade? Aggressive stop, good strong entry bar, so you can just put that down to that sort of 175.25 level. As for the objective, it's difficult with objectives because you've already seen this market breaking out to new highs. So what we're going to do is just compress the chart up a little bit and see what happened last time we were up at that level. We're not going to be talking about a big target here for Johnson & Johnson simply because we've got this whopping great area of resistance here. What makes this a big area of resistance at 78, sort of 75 or so, is because from this high, the market has had a massive fall, okay? If you see an area high here where you only see a small fall, that's not so relevant. But when you see a big fall off a turning point, that means that clearly this is a big area of resistance. We should not discount that. We should not avoid it. That's something that may well come into play with this buy trade. So taking the buy here, we're looking up to that sort of level around that sort of 178.50. So it's not a big target actually that I'm looking at Johnson & Johnson, but it's nice enough. And actually, as a household good product, it's not going to be that fast a mover anyway. So what you find is that stocks like banking stocks, mining stocks, technology stocks, those tend to be more cyclical. They tend to have a lot more volatility, a lot more speed behind them. They're what's called higher beta stocks. Stocks like household products, utilities, they tend to be much slower because you still need shampoo, right? So you still need water, that sort of thing, even when it's in a recession and you're not feeling quite as wealthy. So these companies tend to be more against the cycle, but they don't tend to be as exciting because just because you're in a certain cycle doesn't mean they suddenly make loads more profit suddenly. So they don't tend to move as much as some of those other markets. But, we're certainly looking up to that 178.50 level there from that buy from Friday's close. As for this one setting up, MDLZ, Mondelez International. I think they're like a snacking company or something. I don't really know. I'm not totally familiar with this one, but it's certainly, we're not in risk of it having its next earnings. So if it's reporting there, it's going to report towards the end of April. So we don't need to be too concerned about that. What's happening? There it is. There's my opportunity there from from last night's close. We're seeing that market start to rotate back up again. We've got a swing trade here. So the market is showing an uptrend on the monthly. We're seeing the market rotating up. We're starting to see higher lows coming in. So there's a number of things that we can like about this. Momentum is positive. Price is now positive. There's quite a bit there. My only concern is that level of resistance. In a way, I'd almost rather buy it after a stronger bar today, to tell you the truth. But I kind of like it as an opportunity. But like I said, I'd almost rather buy on strength today because we're kind of limping. It's a little bit like, gosh, what market was it? I think it was dollar Swiss, wasn't it? A little bit like that, struggling to break through that sort of 61.60. But I like it as an opportunity. It's fine. As for targets, first target is going to be that sort of 62.30 area from where the market found a bit of rejection before. The ultimate target, though, we're going to look up to that 64.50 level where the market found support here and here. A little bit of chop, a little bit of indecision around this stock here. And I think the market's got a good chance of pushing up to there, maybe over a couple of waves, but I think it's got a good chance of returning to that sort of level. So first target 62.30, second target 64.50 on MDLZ. But a nice looking buy trade. What's called a buy sniper with the longer term trend. Okay, that's stocks. Let's have a quick look at cryptos. Again, everybody, is this still making sense? You still with me? Hopefully you are. Let me know. Anything else you want me to look at, then you can please happily fire that into the questions box. That's no problem at all. As for cryptos, Now, this may not necessarily be everybody's bag, but there are a couple of cryptos kicking around at the moment. Last week, we didn't have any to review, just because simply there have been lots of long, strong uptrends. I mean, I look at, for example, Bitcoin here, massive uptrend. I mean, really, we can mostly take long trades here with brokers these days, but you can see the buy trade there from the 16th of March. And this is part of the problem. When you're seeing a market that's just going higher and higher and higher, that's fine, but we're waiting for the next opportunity. So there was the buy back on the 16th of March. If you're not on it there, we're sort of sitting on our hands and waiting, really. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that there are other opportunities that we can have a look at. And in fact, if I just simply run the scan again, then I can have a look there. So bear with me. So here's my list of sort of favorite markets, 24, 25 markets. I'm going to be looking on the daily chart for what we call the medium speed setting. Hit search, and that gives us a couple of markets that are setting up for today. All right, so first of all is Dash. We've actually looked at this a couple of times lately. Again, bias really on the long side, to tell you the truth, just from a broker perspective. Some reasonable trades recently. I quite like this as an opportunity. We're seeing at this stage it could be a buy tonight with prices showing its highest close. So getting past some of the resistance seen yesterday, some of the resistance seen on the 23rd of March. So I think that's quite positive actually for Dash, DASH. As for targets, we've got to be looking up to that resistance high, that sort of double top from the sort of December 21 and January 2022. So that 152, 153 area is looking like a good potential target for Dash. So absolutely keep an eye on that for an objective for Dash. As for the stop loss, for me, given that level of target, I'll be inclined to give this one a little bit more room down to that sort of 121.80 below this low from this candlestick here from the 25th of March, 121.80. So that's looking okay. MKR, again, let's have a look at this on a long basis so we can see those opportunities there. A buying opportunity there from MKR, potentially again for tonight. Again, looking like a good strong close where the market, again, you start to build this information. You can see how the market has once again struggled to stay above that 2100 level. This could be extremely attractive up here. And you sometimes think, well, gosh, it was better off, a better value down below 2100, wasn't it? Well, it was, save the fact that at that point it was like a ceiling here. It was struggling to break through it. Every time it was breaking through it, just nudging through it, then getting whacked back down again. This seems a lot more convincing. And once the markets tend to break through those convincing areas of resistance, it can lead to nice higher prices. Okay, but it seems like it's really had to struggle to break through. And those breakouts can often be extremely explosive. So I would like this on a higher close tonight. In terms of objectives, I'm going to look back to that last level of resistance from here, back from February this year. So the market again struggling to break through that level. Will we find a similar kind of seller next time we get up to that level? Because what happens up at this level is it's being hit with lots of sellers. So up at this level, maybe there's an institutional seller. Up at this level, big order that needs to be completed. There's just not enough buyers up here because everyone's thinking it's overbought. Whatever it is, the market found big extreme resistance over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days, almost 8 consecutive days almost. What will we see? Well, all other things being equal, you expect some form of reaction, some sort of hesitation around that sort of level again. So that sort of 2300, 2310 is a nice level for an objective around there on MKR. And then around stop loss around that sort of 2046 level there is quite interesting too. Now, cryptos may not be for everybody. I trade them in small size. I'm not convinced they're my favorite. I like stocks and I like FX mostly, I think, but you can't overlook the volatility and opportunity from those markets as they come through. So guys, that's pretty much it. From me, hopefully that was kind of useful. We've looked at FX, we've looked at stocks, we've looked at cryptocurrencies. one or two sort of indices and commodities as well. Hopefully quite a bit to get our teeth into for this evening. So we're not looking at placing any opportunities now. We'll be reviewing the system tonight just to make sure the signals are still present, and then we'll be looking at those opportunities from there. Now, guys, if you're interested in Trendsignal, you'd like to speak to somebody about maybe seeing this live again or whatever, get in touch with the team on the phone number or the email address that you see on screen there. So get in touch, and we'll absolutely help you to be able to trade with confidence. Otherwise, everybody, I wish you every success with your trading. I'll be online for about another 30 seconds to a minute. If you've got any questions, please fire those through into the questions box. But like I said, happy trading, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.